My project for the final was centered on the topic of the usage of the term neurodiversity and how it combats pathology as disability rhetoric. The greatest rhetorical influencers on my topic would have to be Aaron Rothstein and Jay Dolmage. Rothstein speaks of neurodiversity as a great term to replace terms like mental disorder and mental illness. He focuses greatly on the pathology myth in disability rhetoric and how neurodiversity would help to combat that sort of myth. Publicly, mental disorders, mental illness, and terms of the liking are commonly used by people to label themselves. Rothstein introduces a new idea of using neurodiversity instead, which, although it can be at times generalizing, it really helps to take away from the stigma against certain diagnoses. Dolmage also focuses on pathology in his book, Disability Rhetoric. I was gratefully offered the chance to speak with him in a class meeting, where one of my peers asked him a question about neurodiversity. They asked what his opinion was on the topic and of its usage. Dolmage stated something that really kick-started my ideas on this project. He reassured my peers and I that neurodiversity is a term that has to be used in certain contexts. It's by far not a new term, as it's been used since 1990. However, it's a term that has to be used under certain settings and certain circumstances to be seen as correct. What I've come to understand that in certain public settings, this term is very, very useful to avoid stigma against certain diagnoses. However, in receiving government funds, medical aid, any of that kind of help, using specific diagnoses for people to understand the type of help you need is also very important. Therefore, I put together a project regarding this context and its proper usage. My first goal was to inform my audience of the pathology myth. Pathology is a type of myth in rhetoric that over-medicalizes certain characteristics of a person who may be disabled or have some sort of mental illness. This creates a problem of dehumanization, which is something I wanted to combat. I also had a goal to express my trust in today's terminology regarding disability and neurodiversity. Specifically in using the term neurodivergence, neurodiversity, I have grown to appreciate the term and understanding its purpose. Another goal I had was to offer ideas that take context into account when deciding what rhetorical language to use. I had later decided that the situation wasn't in whether the term was right or wrong, but it was in determining the context in which that term should or should not be used. The medium of my final project was both an infographic and an Instagram post. In my infographic, I described the more pathology side of the argument while mentioning the usage of the term neurodiversity, while in my Instagram post, I focused more on the terminology of neurodiversity and how pathology is a point to make towards the usage of the term. Overall, my topic in my Instagram post was about context. My audience ended up being a public platform of Instagram. Under certain hashtags regarding the neurodivergent community, I use these hashtags in order to bring people in to the conversation who might have not seen my post if I had sent it out without any tags. My project focused mainly on logos and pathos. I used some visuals and some coloring that I thought would really influence positive thinking around my topic. I also had quite an informative argumentation where I sort of talked a lot about facts and about my opinions on topics. What I hope to grow as far as my theoretical thoughts of exposure for my ideas was to think about how I could have put my infographic out publicly. Perhaps I could put it on as a continuation of my Instagram page, which I am already thinking about doing. This would allow me to grow a platform which would actually work in activism, just spreading the word about neurodiversity and other topics of disability rhetoric. I will also leave a link to my Instagram post at the bottom of this video in the description. However, I wanted to post the slides that I had in the Instagram post. They may be kind of hard to read, but I just wanted to mostly display the sort of order in which I posted them. As a visual, I started out with sort of darker colors. However, towards the end, I opened it up to more pastel types of colors, and I gradually edited the pictures to appear more pastel and more friendly towards the end, because my end goal was to inform and to encourage this term neurodiversity and neurodivergence as something positive. Here I will also be listing my infographic and how I describe pathology as it pertains to disability rhetoric and specifically the usage of neurodiversity. This class has taught me a lot about how to apply rhetoric to real life. I also better understand the rhetorical needs of the disabled and neurodivergent communities. This is due to me being able to hear stories and understand that there is a lot more to disability than simple ADA rights. And the way we approach the topic of disability has a large impact on these communities. I know that I can do more to assure myself that I'm not just speaking for myself. By this I mean that there is a common tendency for people who are advocating for change to speak of only the facts they know, and to not take into context the people. One thing I hope to stay on top of in my advocacy for disability rights are the voices and opinions of those in the disability community. I might be surprised to find that someone in the disabled community has an entirely different opinion than I did, and even though I based my opinions in good intention, it may not be what is needed at the time. So I need to understand that and put it into my rhetoric. Overall, I feel like I've come to understand a lot about my potential in advocacy. I have an ability to put my voice out there on social media that I didn't know I had before. Also, knowing how to cite sources instead of simply giving my opinion is something that I've been doing a lot better at. Overall, I want to become a better advocate for those who are still fighting for basic social and human rights. And a good step forward I can take is just to speak out about situations regarding those communities. However you came across this video, thank you so much for watching my presentation. This presentation was done as a final for my Disability Rhetorics course. But I hope you can find something informative and useful in this video as well. Thank you.